What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we are here with Êlea of NOÅTA. Thank you so much for being here today. It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I was just listening to the brand new album Elm, and it's really, really beautiful. Excellent work. Definitely the soundtrack for the times, as I like to say. Was there kind of like a preconceived idea behind the making of this album? Was there kind of like a goal that you were trying to achieve? How did Elm sort of see the light of day?
It's been a really long process. We've been working on it since about 2017. We started for real in 2018. And I guess the main goal we had was to make something that was more coherent, like that sounded more, make one album with songs that sounded like it was a part of the same soundscape and the same world, a little bit more than the last album. So I wanted to blend kind of like the disharmonic like guitar riffs from black metal and do kind of like a minimalistic mix where you don't have that much expensive sounding mix, and blend that with like this ethereal vocal vocal harmonies to get a contrast kind of between that. And that was the main goal, and then we just experimented from that.
Being that you said you were working on this material since 2017, is what we're hearing on these songs like how these songs were originally structured and how they were originally written, or did they maybe kind of change a lot over a span of time?
Oh yeah, some of them really haven't changed much. Like we did maybe 2 or 3 versions of that song. But some songs we experimented a lot more with, and they've had maybe 10 different versions, and you don't always know where you're going with the song when you start it. Like sometimes you do something and you feel halfway through that it doesn't work for some reason. Maybe it's hard to sing to what you've made with the instruments, and maybe it's boring, maybe it's too long. I don't know. And then you change like based on that. We definitely don't have like a recipe for how to do the songs we do. It's more like we see as we go a little bit, I guess. But always capturing a certain mood or feeling, I think, is the most important thing. And whatever works to capture whatever feeling you want to portray with the song, I guess that's like the motto,
Yeah, well, from listening to the material, this music does sound very like organic and not forced at all. Like Dawn Falls flows perfectly into As I Fall Silent, and that falls perfectly into Disillusion, and so on and so forth. So like it almost seems like for the creative process, it's not like you kind of let the songs develop on their own. Like art is life, and you kind of just are its humble guide in the process, right?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely how we want to do it, I guess. And I mean some of that comes as you write, and then you I guess halfway through the process of having these songs, we tried to decide what order to put them in, and then I would add some extra intro and outro bits to tie better together with what was on the previous song, and also how you structure the songs based on having it calmer in the beginning and the end of the album, and then having it ramp up a little bit in the middle. Those kind of things I think add to getting that sense of everything fitting together a little bit more. Was a conscious part of the songwriting, at least for intros and outros and that kind of thing.
And you mentioned that you do try to capture an emotional like state of mind, but being that you were working on this for again a longer period of time, like do you find it maybe like the longer you're working on something, the harder it is to kind of like maintain that emotional spark or kind of keep that emotion consistent in a way?
Yeah, I mean, both yes and no, I guess. I mean, everything changes for all of us all the time. I mean, throughout a process of like 3 years, a lot of things in your personal life and like your emotional life is going to change. So something that maybe you felt very strongly about when you wrote something, yeah, it doesn't feel, I guess, as relevant maybe a couple of years later. But at the same time, I think the kind of things that I'm like trying to portray are, I mean, they're always there, right? So it doesn't really, yeah, it doesn't really change that much. I guess the most like the challenging thing, I guess, for anybody is like tapping into that state, when you like go into, because you can't like finish writing a whole album at once, and if you have to tap back and forth into that, I guess that's why it takes so long, actually, because sometimes you're just really unmotivated and you don't really know what you want to portray, and then sometimes you can work really just get everything out that you want to in a really short amount of time. So like we've always, I guess, tried to work consistently, but not force it. Like it's more important that you're satisfied with the end result rather than like getting an album out really quickly. I think that defeats the purpose a little bit.
Definitely, and like and being that like again I think that every song on here like leads to another perfectly, that I don't think that like I think really the only problem people are going to have with this album is deciding to pick a favorite song, because every song like works so cohesively together even though they have their own like emotional vibe behind it.
Yeah, thank you. That's a nice thing to say.
Anytime. Do you consider like your music to be very conceptually driven? Like, do lyrics or maybe a certain idea or a certain concept influence the direction of the sound as well? I know that certain emotions do it as well, but do you sometimes does like maybe concepts maybe outside of your own personal being also influence the music as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think especially working together with Andres, who I collaborate with in Noita. I think like because the lyrical aspect of it is my lyrics and a lot of like my emotions and that kind of thing. But when collaborating with Andres, like we have to often speak in more not objective terms, but like put it some outside of my like introspective world, I guess. And then we discuss like we try to draw parallels to like other poets, not that I'm a poet, but like poets and art of other forms, like maybe having like visual references. Like we had a song on this album which when we worked on it was called like I don't know how to translate it from Swedish properly, but kind of like a big dead field, kind of, because the visual thing we had, before we had lyrics and everything, was like an image of, like just an endless landscape, and like we draw a lot of parallels to that feeling, that you would feel when you're in a place like that, and I guess also to kind of like achieve this filmatic aspect that we want to achieve with the music, to give it like that otherworldly kind of feeling instead of just being like driven by my emotions alone, because that can become a little bit hard to kind of yeah, can be hard to conceptualize out of just that slim subjective
Yeah. And I'd
point of
imagine
view.
too, inspiration sometimes strikes when you least expect it as well, right? Like I've always said that the greatest inspiration strikes at the most inconvenient times, even.
Yeah, I think that's true. Um, but, everybody walks around with a phone in their pocket. So we definitely have a lot of like songs that have started from, small like recordings on the phone, stuff like that. Because, yeah, like you say, we never like sit down and get a good idea. Usually not. Like it comes at some point. I mean, in the band, we also work, like we've always lived far away from each other, right? So um, we never really meet to write things. Like we write stuff in our own personal time, and then we like share the um, project files with each other, and then we'll sit and tweak it like in our own little world as well.
And and do you feel that maybe like when the songs are very complete that they like that you look at them differently than when you first started? Like, do the songs have a lot more context developed as you further explore the composition?
Um, yeah, I mean, of course. Like, I would say it keeps growing until we consider it being done, really. And because we do everything from like writing the song, producing it, recording it, and mixing it. So there's a lot of like creative decisions being taken from the first idea to the final mix, because you can really shape like the music a lot from that alone, actually.
Yeah. And it being that, going back to like the sources of inspiration, is there maybe like research involved as well? Like, do you always like look for it in a way, or do you just take it as it comes?
I would say there's definitely been not conscious research. Like it's not. I mean, for sure, one song on the last album we did do some research on, because we decided to have drums on that, and we never do otherwise. So we looked into that a little bit, but except for that, like the only research that we've done has been kind of like things you pick up subconsciously. I mean, everybody does that. I guess you hear something that you really like, and you think, I'm gonna take that idea and do something different with it. Or yeah, maybe like I really like this sound that's being used on this album. I'm gonna do like a similar synth sound on my song. Like everything we do, and like everything everybody does is like in relation to something else, right? Like none of us are just coming up with like new things on our own all the time. Like all the chords, everything that everybody's using, it's most likely been used by someone else before. So I think throughout a process of like writing music, I will always like save things in a list that I really like. And the process is usually me like showing that to Andres and being like, I want us to do, like for this album, for instance, I wanted to take like the black metal band Xaster, like the one man metal band from the US. Like he does this kind of like this harmonic guitar riffing, which is really like, and especially now he's gone over to doing it on an acoustic guitar. And I showed that to Andres, and I was like, I really want us to do something with this kind of like disharmonic, but still pretty melodic like drive to it. And that's how we ended up with the second song, like As I Fall Silent. It has that it's definitely influenced by Disaster. So that's like, but sometimes it just grows out of nothing as well. Like you just sit with your keyboard or guitar or whatever, and you just like play something, playing around with sounds, and you find something you like, and you don't really know, it's not coming from anywhere, but it just resonates with you, and then you build on that, you know. So there's a lot of different ways that you can get from like point A to point B, I guess. Yeah.
And you know, referencing black metal, actually, I one reference is actually they were also on your label before they sadly disbanded, but the black metal band Life Lover, because I feel like there's a very raw. There's a very, very raw demonstration of emotion that's demonstrated on here, as there is with them. So Life Lover was kind of like the first black metal band I actually thought of listening to this. I don't know if you were familiar with them ever.
Yeah, I am. I mean, they're also Swedish, so like, yeah, I'm quite familiar with them.
All Swedish bands know each other.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't say that, but yeah, I saw them live actually once.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How were they, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I mean, a bit all over the place, and very. I don't know how to describe it. I mean, musically, it was as expected. It was good.
Yeah. They're very charismatic. They like, I've never seen bands like dance to the most evil form of music that's out there, the way that they do.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. I think they're peculiar for sure. But I listened a lot to them when I was a teenager. I just don't as much anymore, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And going back to like the concepts and the emotions, do you like Noita's music to be open to interpretation, or do you kind of maybe try to get a listener just as engaged in your emotion, or maybe see things from your point of view in a way?
Well, I wanted to be open for, what's the word you used? Interpretation?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want that. I mean, I never wanted to make music that was like very easily definable by one genre. Like, oh, that's pop music, or, you know, that's whatever, like that's black metal, you know? I never wanted to like do something that sounded like everything else, you know? And I think NOÅTA is definitely weaved from a lot of different influences. Like, I mean, in my singing, I've been influenced a lot by like soul singers and stuff like that. Like, they use a really broad range of their vocal registry, I guess it's called, in English. Yeah, and I think obviously, like, at this point in time, it's hard to do something that's like, everything sounds like something else at this point in time, I think. But I definitely wanted it to be like not like a part of a cliche, I guess. Like, I wanted it to be, or I want it to be, I guess for people who like all kinds of music, I'm hoping. But people who have that same kind of mindset, I guess, as I do, like melancholic. Outlook. I don't know how to describe it. Yeah.
Well, I think whether you like it or not, like, I think people are going to be very engaged into the emotional aspects of this album. I really think that it is going to resonate with a lot of people, especially in the time of all this anxiety and this confusion and this isolation. I think that this is an album that is going to resonate with many, many people.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine for me. I don't know. I think like regardless of the pandemic or not, we are in a time where I think we're more isolated and lonely than we've ever been, you know?
Couldn't agree
We
more.
replaced that with like Instagram and all sorts of meaningless forms of socialization. I don't know. So, yeah, because I mean, I've gotten that question for a couple of interviews, like if the pandemic had an impact on this album, and you know, we finished it like right when the pandemic hit, and then you know, you're sending it to master, and like all those things take a lot of time, but it really had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, I think artists are just always ahead of their time, and they were creating the music that would later be the soundtrack to this. I think a lot of bands have been foreseeing this darkness long before it even dawned upon us.
Yeah.
So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for a really good analyzation of this album. I'm really excited for more people to hear it. Is there just anything else with NOÊTA that you would like to promote for the release, like maybe a live stream performance to hold people over, or new merch, or anything else that you would like to plug?
Not really. We don't have any plans of like any live recordings, but the pre-order of the vinyl and limited edition vinyl is out on Prophecy Productions web shop. So, you know, if you're excited about it, or check out our music videos that we released for the singles. Try to create the visuals for the soundtrack. And yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We are here with NOÊTA. Be sure to check out Elm when it comes out. This is Alex from Heavy New York.